right, everyone, welcome. Second installment of the Buddy Book Club. A big thank you to our buddy's pace car Joe for the intro music. I'm Dylan, and I'm joined today by my good buddy, the luscious librarian, Keith.
Do I get a new nickname every time? Because I kind of like it.
I hope so. If I can continue with the same
Every
theme, I
time.
will.
Need one.
Today we're going to be discussing Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Our last episode, we talked about Holes, a classic young adult novel that if you're not familiar with, go back and check out episode 1. But this week we're really spreading our wings, I'd say, with this book.
You had mentioned in the first episode that our reading level is typically in the young adult section, and then we went to this, and yeah, that was a step up, I would say.
Well, I think that's still considered young adult. Like, people read this.
Are you serious?
People read this in like 8th or 9th grade.
Totally.
Well, we did not. And our conversation here is probably going to be a little bit different than your traditional book club. We're by no means literary scholars, and we're not here to pretend to be. We just like to read books and have a laugh while we do it, right?
Oh, yeah.
I guess without further ado, let's just dive right into the book. So it's a dystopian novel written in 1931 that's set 600 years in the future. So quick math, it's about 500 years in the future. Good math?
Totally right.
Yeah. So we're going to have to not only consider the world that Aldous Huxley built, but, also the fact that this book was written about the same time as sliced bread became commonplace.
I saw that chocolate chip cookie was invented in 1931, so I was like, oh, shit.
What the hell were people doing before?
I don't know.
Chocolate chip cookies and sliced
bread. Were cookies invented before that? Because the chocolate chip cookie is the number one cookie for sure, right?
I want to say yes, but this is going to be, this
is going to go way off topic. Yeah.
So, well, I don't want to say yes without having a guarantee on it. So, like I said, Brave New World was written by Aldous Huxley. He was born of like a well-to-do family in Surrey, England. His grandfather, Thomas Huxley, keen supporter of Darwin. So, this is some serious shit here. And not only that, probably more importantly than that, phenomenal set of sideburns. So if you guys want to take a break and Google the guy, Thomas Huxley, sideburns, insane. Aldous, though, was definitely a deep thinker. He enjoyed a good mescaline trip. Eventually later wrote a book on it. Overall,
is that true? That makes way more sense. Oh, yeah. Okay. I did not know that. That makes way more sense.
Overall, the guy seemed like a good hang. You get super high and you talk about weird futuristic shit. So I think we should just jump right into the book, because this book is interesting in that the first 3 chapters of it have almost no character development or even introduction of characters whatsoever. We're introduced to one character. We'll get into that shortly. The book opens up with this scene of this factory building, this industrial building, except instead of building computer chips or car parts, they're building people. People are coming out of test tubes, and it's basically a 30-story building where every story is part of the growth of a human being. So I guess the society itself is built on a layer of castes where alphas are at the tops and epsilons at the bottom. So if you're familiar with the Greek alphabet or joined a frat, then
whoa, fraternity. Come on.
You don't call your country a cunt. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. Those are the castes in this society that Aldous built, and with alphas being the highest and epsilons being the lowest. And so the idea is to mass produce the gammas and the epsilons.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning which is very different than I would say most books, is just exposition for 3 chapters. It's like, here's what the world looks like. To be honest, my favorite parts were like, oh, this is really cool, them thinking about this whole futuristic society and coming up with this. Once it gets in the actual story, I think it kind of sucks. But the actual world building, I thought was super interesting. And like, for someone to write this in the 30s I think it was genius. Like, as you mentioned, like, this guy was kind of a good time.
Okay, so everyone's kind of set in terms of what they do for their daily life. So they go to work, and then they enjoy their leisure, but it's not leisure, it's play. Like, there's no time for yourself to just like sit and think. It's always, going to the feelies, which are kind of like going to the movies, I guess.
Their whole thing is like never be alone and always have something to do.
And then if you find yourself in that place, you take soma, which is like the drug they have. Oh, which, by the way,
like ecstasy.
The drink. No, it's not like ecstasy. What?
I thought it was. Yeah, the basically makes everyone happy.
No, it's like maybe it's
sexualized. Yeah, I think you read it wrong.
But you also can just like pass out.
Yeah, if you take too much of it, it's just like
no one's passing out from ecstasy. I'll tell you that. Unless they're like dehydrated.
All right. Well, let me tell you what's wrong with the society. Here's the first thing is that they're conditioned, right? But once you get told that you've been conditioned, you now start to question all conditioning, right? That's what the first thing I had issues with. It's like if you never tell these people they've been conditioned and they're like, no, this is the way to do things, then it makes more sense. But once you tell someone like, oh, you've been taught that, that's the only reason you think that way, then you like start to question everything. No?
I don't think so. I think because that's the conditioning occurs from birth. So it's so ingrained into their psyche that if an epsilon sees a book, they're disgusted by it. I feel like most of the characters in this are alphas that we're going to talk about shortly, but I don't think a lot of people are really like questioning it. And then when you do question it, you always have a part of that hypnopedic conditioning to kind of revert you back to like your level of homeostasis.
That was a big word, but yeah, I totally know what that means. All right, yeah, I see what you're saying. But like in today's society, what are you conditioned to? I guess is a question, because like even the things you get conditioned to as a young person, I feel like you still end up questioning: is this the right thing to do? Do I want to still do this? And if not, like for instance, look at this example: setting the table. It's like, this is how you set the table. I'm like, why? Why do you do that? I'm still upset about that. Like, why does the fork have to go on the left? Why does the napkin have to go here?
The fork goes on the right.
Yeah, exactly. Once you start questioning things, D-man, then you'll know. I will tell you the things I do like: the promiscuousness of the society. I mean, what? Who said that? And that you don't age. I think that's a huge, and that when people die, they're just like, yeah, everyone's happy. It doesn't matter. I think those three things kind of make the society pretty awesome. I don't know about you, but
yeah, I mean, there's definitely some positives with that. I think the death part's nice. You just kind of, at the end, you take a bunch of soma and then you die.
Really, the worst thing is people saying those cliche, catchy sayings or whatever they all have. That would drive me insane. I wouldn't be able to handle that.
So what you're talking about is like the hypnopedia aspect of like, so that's why it's like if someone's upset, it's like, take a soma, a day. It's like, it's like an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Up and Atom may be my least favorite one. When someone's like, hey, get up and Atom, I'm like, no. That still angers me to this day thinking about it.
But yeah, that's kind of the idea. But it'd be like if everyone was conditioned for that since birth. So that's pretty much the world we're going to. We're going to dive into a little bit of the characters here.
Yeah, and I think the best way to describe these people is to just assign movie characters or people who you saw them as. As a way to like, I know we did that at the end last time, but I think it'd be a good way to be like, hey, if you haven't read the book, here's who they basically are.
Yeah, well, I guess our main characters are really Bernard, Lenina, and John. Go through who you have for those three.
Yeah, well, I want to give a pre-qualifier here is that I really did not like any of these characters other than Lenina, who I think was the one person that was actually good. So we got Bernard, who I saw as, at the beginning, I thought he was the hero, and we'll get into that obviously, but like, then eventually he just turns into the worst person. He reminded me of the guy from Lost, the bad guy. You know what I'm talking about? Who's like kind of a social misfit, but then he gets this power at the island and he becomes this like, thrives with it and loves it. That's Bernard to me.
The like weird mouse looking guy.
Yeah, exactly. His name's Michael Emerson, and I apologize for him for calling him weird looking. But you see what I'm saying? He's like this guy that's like a misfit. Once he gets an ounce of respectability or power, he takes every single advantage of it. And he's the quickest one to ditch a friend or ditch any person. Everything's for himself. One of the most hateable characters who started out being like, oh, this is the guy that's going to overthrow this society type thing, right? That's what I thought when I first started reading.
Totally agree. When I first read him, I was like, oh, so when his character first comes in, he's an alpha or an alpha plus, but some people make jokes about him because he's a little smaller in stature. Most alphas are taller and more beautiful looking. So, and he's also a little sad, and no one's sad in this society. So like he seems to have been a bit unconditioned, which seems, we'll get into this as well, but it seems like it's pretty easy to become unconditioned in this society. So it seems like he's going to make the breakthrough of realizing that there's more out there.
Yeah.
But
who did you have for him?
Because this is a British novel written by someone British, I went with British characters.
Okay,
because that's how you do it. I had Daniel Radcliffe as him.
Oh, I like that. I was actually looking at British characters as well, and I was thinking about that. He's too likable now from Harry Potter, but yeah, I could definitely see him playing that.
Oh, you should see some of his other movies. They're actually pretty good. But
okay.
Yeah, he's small in stature. He's kind of greasy looking, or could be in this in this role, So I could see him kind of being like the pouty of the bunch.
Who would you have for John the Savage?
Okay, so for John the Savage, I had Daniel Kaluuya, who's the guy from Get Out, as John the Savage, and then just to jump ahead, his father, the director, being Idris Elba.
Well, I thought John the Savage, after Bernard let me down, was going to be the next Saber, and instead he's out here quoting Shakespeare, playing the martyr complex left and right, and then just beating up kids and women. I was like, wait, what? Just starts
don't
beating
get ahead
up.
of us.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's just the background. So I gave it to Elijah Wood, and you know how, like, kind of in the Lord of the Rings where he's playing like the martyr the whole time, like, oh, I'm the only one that can handle this. Yeah, that's the kind of whininess that I was expecting out of.
Okay. And he does a great British accent, so I appreciate it.
Does he? Okay.
Well, did you see Lord of the Rings?
Is he British accent in that? I thought that was the Hobbit accent. No.
What? No. He does a British accent.
Kid, they're in a different world. I don't know what British accent you're talking about. That doesn't make sense.
Okay, so Elijah Wood, I could see it.
And then for Lenina, I thought that'd be a perfect Elizabeth Banks, like free-loving, happy-go-lucky, very redeemable, very likable. That's what I thought.
Oh, interesting. Elizabeth Banks.
Like the 40-year-old virgin version of her, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I actually think that's pretty good. The only problem is that she's not voluptuous enough, because Lenina is supposed to be kind of curvy and hot and blonde. So with those in mind, I went with Heather Graham. I'm talking like Boogie Nights, Heather Graham.
Yeah, I think they're both very, very similar. So I would agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. And any other characters of note? I told you the director.
Yeah, the two quick ones. For Helmholtz, I would have done Benedict Cumberbatch for your Britishness, like the intelligent, like too smart for society type guy. And then Linda, I did Marisa Tomei. I thought that would be a good older flirty mom type.
Okay, so Helmholtz, I think I win. Colin Firth, duh. Like
they're both British superiors. Come on.
But he's supposed to be a little bit older, so I'm going.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm going with Colin Firth.
Yeah, that works.
Then Linda, Marisa Tomei, that's just not going to cut it.
No?
Linda is supposed to be like overweight and toothless.
Come on. This is actresses. We're not going to put someone that's actually ugly. That's how in a book.
Okay.
They're gonna have less makeup on than they usually would. That's what the actress would do. That's it. That's nothing.
I guess that's fair. But I went with the dame Judi Dench.
I have to look that up. Judi Dench. Is she the James Bond girl?
Yeah. Plays M in James Bond.
Our British listeners are not going to be happy with that. You're calling her fat and toothless. Jeez.
No, I'm just saying she's she's supposed to be older and die. With that, I think we should just get it.
Can she play the promiscuous, like, she seems like more of a serious, they call her mom in, is it ma'am or mom in James Bond? I feel like they call her mom.
It's ma'am, but it says it comes across as mom.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I think of her as. So I disagree with that one.
Okay, that's fair. But so let's get into the actual book itself. Like we said, we're first introduced to Bernard and Lenina because this is kind of like after the intro of the society itself. Bernard obviously has something for Lenina, and Lenina seems to be interested in Bernard. Bernard is the outcast. Lenina is, hot to trot. People seem to like her. And we're introduced to some of the, what the society looks like. Everyone drives around in helicopters. They go to work, then they go play, and usually play involves obstacle golf or, usually some kind of sport, golf or tennis or squash. And then they go to the feelies and then they bang. It's pretty much like you bang, you take soma. Yeah, so Bernard and Lenina decide to go on a date. He takes her out on her helicopter, and Bernard takes her to the ocean because he says, makes him feel like himself or like a person, which is like
That's the worst.
complete blasphemy that like someone could feel like a person in this thing. And Lennon is just like, when are we going to go back and bang? Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And
this is the real story here, D-Man. So first off, short people in this society, Jesus Christ, if you're like under 5'10" and reading this book, like I'd almost put it away, because they basically just shit all over short people. Like, oh my God, people that are short are grotesque. They're ugly. They're little cats I can put in my hand. I'm like, oh, that was the most offensive part of this book, in my opinion.
It's really like the entire book is like a typical Bumble profile.
Yeah.
Like, if you're under 6'1", don't talk to me.
Yeah. So then she's like, no, what? I like this guy. I don't care that he's shorter. And then like all her friends are like, oh wow, okay. Goes out with him, and she's like, let's go get fucked up on all these drugs. Let's have a good time, and then let's go back and bang. And he's like, how about you go watch the ocean? That's literally the date. That's all that was. Bernard is the worst.
See, I get Bernard in this situation. I'm like, hey, where's the chase? The chase is always the best. It's not about when everything's laid out in front of you. Like, is that fun? No, he's like, he wants this girl to have feelings for him, which the idea of having feelings for someone is absurd in this society. The date's over. Bernard begrudgingly takes Soma's and bangs her.
And he wakes up the next morning. He's like, oh, that was gross. I wish I didn't do that.
Yeah. She banged a 10, bro. Enjoy yourself. But Bernard's big goal here is to try to get to one of the reservations. Invites Lenina there, and she's down because she wants to see what these savages are like. So they head out to the reservation, and at this reservation, it's what you, I guess, would envision a typical Native American tribe to be like. There they meet our other main character, John, who's also named the Savage in this, and Linda, his mother. And John grew up in this Native American society knowing that his mother came from somewhere else. And really the only thing that John knows about English or, anything about the past is Shakespeare, because Linda's pimp, I guess, Pope, Linda's pimp, gave him a Shakespeare book. And so he's pretty much just like read all of Shakespeare's works. So John meets Bernard and Lenina, and then Bernard immediately realizes this is the director's kid, and he knows the director has it out for him. So he's like, I got to bring John back to society.
Yeah, a couple points here. First off, that's super convenient, huh? You're about to get kicked out of the society, sent to Iceland, and then you happen to meet. What are your chances of meeting the one thing that could save you from this? Which I thought was very, very convenient. Yeah, it was like, okay. It's lazy writing, in my opinion.
No. Yes. This drives the narrative.
But can we start with John here? He immediately starts whining about not being the person that got whipped. Like, okay, weird, but all right. And then he's the guy that shows up and starts quoting Shakespeare. That's like the guy that shows up with the guitar at the party. Or the guy that's like,
you guys read Wonderwall?
Yeah. Oh, I read the journal today. Did you guys read the journal? Like, that's that guy. The guy that's like has to tell you about everything that he's done that's so smart. He's this guy right here the whole time. Oh, he's just the worst.
I'm going to disagree. I find John to be an extremely sympathetic character. Like, he's a man with no home, really. Like, he was born in this Native American village.
Every single character in this book, though, it doesn't fit into the society. He's the only one that's being this, like, pompous, oh, like, if things don't fit my way, then one, I'll use violence. Two, I'll quote Shakespeare. Like, those are his only two resolutions to things that don't work for his way. Everyone else has the same issues that he does.
See, I'm going to say that John longs for love. Like, he's read all these Shakespeare books about love and struggle, and he's felt the struggle in his like Native American place because he's an outcast there, and now he longs for some sort of meaning, some love in his life. And he sees Lenina and he's like, oh, this is Roller Girl from Boogie Nights. I'm into that. Like,
you're still describing the guy that shows up with the guitar and he's like, and someone's like, "Oh, I really like your guitar. You're good at singing." He's like, "No, don't talk to me. Like you haven't practiced like I have. Like this needs to be harder than this is." And you're like, "Wait, what?"
You know what's crazy? Chicks dig that guy.
I know,
Chicks
but
dig that guy.
I'm just saying he's just the worst. I don't know how you like him.
So, well, I like him because he's fallible. You know what I mean? In a real way, as opposed to like where all these other characters are just like automatons. Like they're just, they have the
What
same.
now?
They're automatons. They're pieces of a machine. They just do whatever they need to do throughout the day. He at least has some sort of sense of self, and he's a person. You know what I mean? He's struggling. He's trying to be something.
I mean, if you showed up at Rome, kid, it was the Romans. You don't just show up there and say, "I don't like any of this, and I'm just gonna fuck everything up because it's not the way I like it." That's not how the world works. Just because you don't want to stand in line for something doesn't mean you can cut the line because that's what you believe is right.
Like, well, I agree with that. The worst people in the world are line cutters.
Well, this is what this guy's doing. He's like, well, I view the world this way and my way is right. And the vast majority of people are wrong. That's what he's saying is like, my view's right. Everyone else is wrong.
Okay. Well, we'll kind of get into the ideas that he poses later once he talks to the controller, Mustafa Mond, later in the book. But for now, after Bernard and Lenina go to visit him on the reservation, Bernard wants to bring him back to society so that he can expose the director because this is his son. John is his son. And John wants to go back to the society because his mom has told him about it. That's where she's from. She wants to go back. And also he wants to spend more time with Lenina because she's gorgeous. So they bring him back to England.
Real quick, we can't skip over the part where he sneaks into Lenina's room and just starts sniffing all of the shit she has and is like, "Yeah, I'm into this." Like that was that not weird?
Hey. If you haven't sniffed a seat that someone sat on, then you haven't really lived. All right.
All right. We'll throw that one out. We'll score that one yours.
So Bernard's doing this also for fame because Bernard's a loser. All right. So Bernard wants to bring John back to be like, "Oh, look, I have a nice new toy and I'm going to show everyone my nice new toy. And then all these chicks are going to want to bang me because none of the chicks want to bang him."
So we got the two guys. We got the guy that shows up with like the Mustang that's revving the engine really annoyingly. And then we got the sad loner that shows up with a guitar to get attention, then says he doesn't want the attention. That's who these two characters are right now. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could simplify it even more and just say Bernard's the guy who brings the guy with the guitar to the campfire on the beach
and tells him to rev the engine.
No, he brings the guy to the beach, and then the chicks are like, "Wow, he plays such a great guitar." And then you're like, "Yeah, you want to talk to him? I know him. He's my friend. I'm Bernard." You know?
Okay. That's good. I'll give you that.
So he brings him back, and he just starts introducing John to everyone. But after Bernard first introduces John to the director and those people, right as the director's about to send him being Bernard, to Iceland, the director finds out John is his kid. Huge blow up. Everyone laughs at the director like, "Wait, what? This has to be a huge joke." Complete defamatory thing. I can't imagine in like our celebrity structure what this would be like.
Kind of like the OBJ liking being shit on thing. It's probably like similar to that.
Yeah, or like Des Bryant liking to get peed on.
That's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
we'll go with that. I mean, yeah. So it's like that happening, but like everyone's seeing it happen, and then everyone laughing at him hysterically. So Linda's there. She's like, "Oh, I know the director. Yeah, this is your baby." Director has to take like 10,000 soma and just go off into oblivion. We don't hear about him after that. So luckily though for Bernard, he's, for the time being, doesn't have to go back to Iceland or doesn't have to get sent to Iceland. And then John somehow just has like free reign in this society. So he's like going around doing his thing. Lenina is now super attracted to John. She wants John, but she wants John in her very basic, I just want to bang mentality, where John wants her in his Romeo and Juliet idea. Like he wants to love her, and she doesn't understand what love is and is so weirded out by him, but she ends up like getting naked in front of him and he's like, whoa, you're a slut.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Again, my girl Lenina just gets absolutely shit on. Probably the most shit on character I've ever seen. First, he's like, "Yeah, I really like you," and then she gets naked, and he's like, "Gross, get out of here." And then starts beating her up. Right? He starts physically attacking her because she wanted to have sex with him, and which is like weird because human nature, like just animalistically, we're not conditioned out. Like you can get conditioned out of that, but this guy's conditioned himself out of that like primal instinct. Like if you're 20 and a virgin, there's no way you're not ready to go there, right? Like you're doing that.
Yeah, it wasn't clear whether John was a virgin or not. I had the same idea when I read this. I was like, bro, get up in that. Are you crazy? Like, she's a smoke. What are you doing? Like,
Also, he stabbed Pepe when
Pepe being his mom's
boyfriend. His mom. Yeah, when they had a like monogamous, what's the word?
Monogamous.
Relationship. So I don't really get, he's such a wild card that like he's so unlikable in my mind.
Okay, well, let's be clear. There's nothing monogamous about Linda.
Well, yeah, but Pepe or whatever his name is trying to have that, and he goes up and stabs him for no reason.
He did stab him. But we're getting behind ourselves.
That was bad. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I'm just trying to establish this fact that the savage John is just the worst.
So John is now kind of like the bearded woman, in the circus kind of thing. And he doesn't like that because people just want to see him to be like seen with the savage and see what the savage is. And all he sees when he looks at these people is they're all idiots. There's no, he doesn't see a bunch of alpha pluses. He just sees a bunch of stupid people who don't realize that there's more to life than waking up, going to work, going to the Feelies, playing obstacle golf, and then taking soma and fucking yourself to sleep. He wants.
He's a celebrity that wants all the attention, but only on his terms. So someone comes up and gets a selfie, and he's pissed off at them. Like that's who he is.
He's Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, like, oh, I want all the fame and I want all the money, but don't ever come up to me and don't even address me or look at me.
He doesn't want the fame though. I don't feel like he's like.
If he just wanted a normal life, he could just go back to the reservation. He definitely enjoys the.
He left the reservation for Lenina to try to fall in love. I mean, he asked her to marry him, and she doesn't even know what that means and is freaked the fuck out by it. And that's when he decides to beat her to death. But no, he doesn't beat her to death. He just beats her into a closet. That kind of ends our second act, I guess, because then John gets a call about his mom.
Yeah, awfully convenient timing again for this. Where it's just like, all right, let's shift to the next story. Linda's gonna die now. It's like, wait, what? Like he just gets a phone call mid beating her up to be like, all right, I gotta go now. Like, oh, that's super good.
Whatever. Phone calls happen at all times, man. I just got one right now.
All right, fair enough. Carry on.
It's not divine intervention or like driving of narrative, but either way, it does drive the narrative.
So anyway, the next act after this phone call, surprisingly.
So he goes to see his mom, who's in a hospital pretty much, although there's no such thing as a real hospital. She's just in like a dying room. And part of childhood conditioning is that death is not a big deal. Like we talked about the society. So he goes there, and while he's like watching her die, all these kids are running around like laughing and joking because that's what they're conditioned to do. They're conditioned to think death is no big deal, which is kind of chill.
And again, there are societies that do that celebrate death. If you showed up there and just started destroying the place because you were pissed that people weren't being sad, you'd look like a complete psychopath, right?
Which is what he does. He looks like a complete psychopath because as his mom's dying and all these kids are laughing, he starts
beating kids up
and he starts hitting. But at the same time, you have to also think that these kids are all gammas and epsilons. So in this dying area is all like the low level workers.
Yeah, so they're like mentally challenged kids, essentially, and he's beating them up. That's essentially what he's doing. Yeah.
They're just like, they're all twins. They're all like twins, which is scary.
I imagine them as like a bunch of inbred people, right? That's what they all, right? No?
Yeah, I don't know. He's not beating up on the disabled.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is.
But either way, he's like pretty fucking pissed about all these kids, and his mom dies, and then he just needs to get out of there. So on his way out of there, he goes through the lobby, and in the lobby is all these gammas and epsilons that are getting off of work, And so at the end of the day, when everyone's getting off work, they're trying to get their Soma ration, because that's what you do at the end of the day.
Right. You
you
go to
go
the
to work.
bar, and this guy doesn't want anyone to have a good time. Oh, let's go to a
Yeah.
happy hour. No, fuck your happy hour. You're
So
not
he
going.
snaps. He
Yeah.
snaps and decides to like throw everyone's Soma rations out the window, and all the people revolt on him and basically try to tear him apart. But Helmholtz gets word of what's happening, as does Bernard, and they rush down there. And Helmholtz goes all in. He's all in with John. Helmholtz is like, yeah, let's fucking fight the good fight, my brother. And they go down like the 300 at Thermopylae, and they're just fighting off. I think they were midgets. Truthfully, I think they were midgets in the book. So he's just fighting off hordes of midgets. And Bernard is the biggest pussy ever.
Oh,
This is where you hate Bernard the most, because he wants to help those guys, but like also doesn't want to look bad. So he's just like, I'll just kind of pretend. He's like Upham in Saving Private Ryan, you know?
Oh, ammo guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, can't do anything. So he's like acting like he's doing something, but really isn't. And then when eventually the police come in and they start spraying everyone down with Soma, like aerosol Soma, which sounds fucking phenomenal. Like, give me a fucking gun of aerosol Soma. I would love that. Give me a CPAP machine of aerosol Soma every night. Because of that, everyone kind of gets quelled down, but then Bernard, John, and Helmholtz get taken to the top. They get taken away to Mustafa Mon's office. That is the controller, only one of 10 in the world. And Mustafa Mon turns out to be like a pretty chill dude. Yeah. So he's obviously the big controller of this whole society. And his job is to keep society in order, for his section. And he sympathizes with John and Helmholtz. Bernard's scared the whole time that he's getting sent to Iceland because he's a pussy.
Immediately turns on his friends and throws them under the bus instantly.
Yeah. Instantly. The worst person. A fucking rat, In comparison to our last book, he's zigzag. He's zigzag in that situation.
Cross-eye?
And so, but it turns out Mustafa Mond is, he knows Shakespeare, which immediately, John is floored because he thought everyone in this society was a bunch of automatons, like I said before. And he's like, whoa, wait, Shakespeare? Then we have this really deep, this is probably, if you're just going to read one chapter in this book, I think this tells a lot. And just read this chapter. I think it's chapter 16. And the idea of a lot of it is pretty much happiness, and he's pretty much saying, like, Mustafa Mond is saying that we've created happiness here. Like, everyone is happy. There's no strife. There's no issues. Nothing is going on between these people. They enjoy what they're doing. And John's idea of happiness is that happiness has to come from something. Like, happiness without suffering isn't happiness. If everyone started off with this happiness, they're not, in Mustafa Mond's mind, they're not actually happy. It's just like they're just machines. It's
there's no baseline for what happy and what isn't.
Exactly. Like, happiness is that baseline. Yeah. So it's just blah. But you do need. I feel like you do need those like down moments in life to like really. It's like working for something to achieve. It's like when you play team sports. No one likes practice, but like, no one likes the running, but all of that turns into a W, and then it becomes ecstatic, but if you get W's just by doing nothing.
It's like why child stars are so fucked up, is because they have to find a new barometer for happiness, right? Because like they're basically given every possible thing everyone else is trying to achieve when they're 12 years old, let's say. So what do you do now? Like, what's the next thing you can do to actually surpass that? There's like nothing. So they get all fucked up on drugs and do other shit like that. Maybe Soma, whatever.
Yeah, definitely get some Somas.
Yeah.
I mean, I would truthfully say that anyone that hasn't read this book and just like wants to learn a little bit of philosophy or like think about stuff, like just read this chapter and you don't even have to know the characters, but the conversation between the two is
I agree
so
with that.
interesting. Science is a big factor here too, because science is what this society's built on, but no one knows how science works. They just push the buttons. It's like us using a computer. Like, I don't know how a fucking computer works. I don't know how our voices are being carried over the airwaves, but I know how to do it, So, which is also interesting for other dystopian ideas when, people see in other books and stuff like that, when people see these old technologies and they're like, yo, what was that? It reminds me of when Rome was obviously, the Roman Empire was taken all the way out, at least the Western Roman Empire was taken all the way out to England and then reverted back. And then the barbarians took down Rome. And then people saw like these roads, like these Roman roads and these aqueducts. And this is hundreds of years later. And they're like, what are these? Like what is this? Like, these are plumbing structures. Like, whoa, what is this? And it's just so crazy to think, like, now we feel like everything is going to be this way forever. But if anything was to happen and, someone found a computer, you would have no idea what it was.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So basically at the end of this conversation, Mustafa Mon, good guy, like we said, he gives John a bunch of literature, which is awesome. It's all pornography, according to them, because you can't have this stuff. But what does he say? He says Ford. He says like Ford on the shelf and religion in the safe or something like that, which I found was funny. It was kind of like whatever in the streets and a hoe in the sheets.
That's probably where it came from.
So Mustafa Mons feels bad for these guys, and so he offers to send Helmholtz to an island, which this whole time we thought islands have been horrible, but he's like, hey, islands is where we send all these smart people that are thinkers like you. So you actually might have some good conversations there. And Helmholtz's like, yeah, that's actually a good point. I'm going to go write my book. So he sends him away. Bernard also luckily gets a similar treatment. And John asks for it, but instead they're like, no, we want to keep you here for like science experiment to like see the savage in our society. And he's like, oh, hell no. I'm headed to some lighthouse in the middle of nowhere, which kicks off act 4. And in that, John heads to this island and he kind of just reverts to what he remembered from the Native American tribes / like a little bit of Silas from Angels and Demons.
It's Da Vinci Code. I haven't read Angels and Demons. Yeah.
Yeah. So he basically just like, this is kind of just like sad to me, and I don't really get it, because he's like chastising himself for loving a harlot.
This is where the martyr syndrome comes in, where he thinks he knows better than everyone else and he can't deal with society. Instead of just like going out, figuring out like a new way to live, he's like, nope, fuck everyone else. I don't know if you can tell my animosity towards him.
Yeah, you have some animosity. And we'll finish this up quickly here, because there's not really a lot left in terms of the book itself before we break into like, the things we liked and didn't like. But he basically goes and does this until people hear about it, and then he becomes a sideshow again. People want to see him. They fly out there. They're like, oh, come on, whip yourself again. He doesn't like being a creature in a cage, basically. Lenina comes and he starts to beat her, and then basically hangs. And then he doesn't want to live in the society anymore. And he hangs.
And then the way it's written too. I'm the only one probably ever that didn't realize he hanged himself, but I didn't learn that until I looked it up after. But the way it's written is like, then he sees his shoes, and then they're like, Savage, what are you doing? And then he swings left and then right, or northwest. I'm like, what does the compass have to do with anything right now? And then the book ends. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, the compass had to do with him earlier when he was saying, when he first got to the lighthouse, and he was like, I look southwest and I see the fields, and I look northwest and I see the city. Our characters at the end is John's dead. Helmholtz is probably having a great time on the islands, enjoying himself. Bernard's probably sad like he always is. Lenina, nothing's changed. She's still out there. She's just
still putting herself out there and getting rejected and beat up by abusive people like Savage or John. So but
she's strumpeting around. So in terms of dystopian worlds, I thought this one was pretty interesting. Like, where does this rank in your dystopian worlds?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have some reader emails or listener emails rather
Oh,
too. We can go
okay.
into this too. While I'm pulling that up, I would say that this I think, and probably letting the cat out of the bag, but I would not recommend this one. But I would say this could have been much better if had we got thrown in chapter 4, basically start the book, where you're introduced to society, you don't know anything about it, and now you meet this guy Bernard who's like this malcontent, blah blah blah, not liking society. You don't know anything about conditioning, and then you kind of find that out at the end where it's like, oh, this makes sense why everyone's like this. You just think like, oh, it must be soma, must be something going on here. But that, I think, if you reordered the structure of the book and kind of made that so you didn't understand what was going on, it left like much more desire to like figure out what's going on in society rather than just be like, here's a society, here's a shitty story, here's more of the society. That's kind of how I read it. I don't know what your thoughts
Yeah,
are
I
about
think you could definitely write a better book than Aldous Huxley. I agree.
God damn it. First of all, I'm here to critique things, all right? I'm trying to make him better. When Aldous, I'll talk to Aldous. First of all, great name, Aldous.
Yeah,
He'll
so
learn.
his name came from, I think his aunt wrote a book, and one of the characters in her book was named Aldous, and his mom decided to name him after his aunt's character from that book.
Oh, okay. This is an email from Miko from New Hampshire, I believe. He said, hey guys, love the pod. Great listening. I've been listening for this whole time to the first episode. I might have made that first part up. You're both awesome. Anyways, he said, here's my list of favorite dystopian books and movies. Let me know what you guys think after reading this one. He listed Minority Report, Blade Runner, Planet of the Apes, which I don't know if he meant the new one or the old one, 1984, and then Terminator or RoboCop. So yeah, I think that was a pretty good start. What'd you have on yours, your top list?
Well, I guess my bottom list, because
Oh wow.
I'm gonna be
Okay.
contrary.
All right.
My bottom list is one, and it's The Matrix. That would be a horrible.
Wow. You didn't like the all right. The second and third movie's fine, but
No. The movies are phenomenal. I think the movies themselves are pieces of art. They're
oh,
phenomenal.
okay.
All
Wait,
of
what do
them.
you
I
mean
liked all of
bottom
them.
list then?
In terms of living in that society.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of living in that society, like just keep me in the Matrix. I'm good.
Yeah,
Give me
yeah,
give me the blue
100%.
pill.
You're eating the steak and you're like, I know this isn't real, but whatever. I'll continue
Yeah,
eating this.
when
Yeah.
when Cyrus or whatever that guy's
Yeah.
name is doing that, I'm like, yeah, give me the
Yeah,
fucking
I
steak.
agree with that. Did you see
What's
the
the?
new the behind the scenes clip of Dwight with the Matrix thing?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
That was
exactly that.
hilarious. I was the same way. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty chill here. I just got promoted. I'm good. In terms of dystopian futures I'm into, Total Recall is up there for me.
Mm-hmm.
I also Minority Report's a no because I'd be arrested like 100 times.
What for? Please indulge.
I don't know. Ask the precogs. Ask the
Yeah.
precogs.
All right.
But yeah, I'm out on that. And one of the other ones he said was pretty good too, but I can't remember. But thank you, Miko. We appreciate that, and we also think you're awesome as well. What about you?
I just listed my favorite in the genre, but I guess best societies. I think the worst society would also be V for Vendetta, which would be kind of more of a probably potential real life situation.
Yeah, I mean, these are all totalitarian societies. So
yeah.
as far as it comes, which I'm going to get into shortly about the difference between these two because V for Vendetta was on top of my mind. But yes, that is also.
Yeah, I also think we are living currently with the situation we're in now in Ready Player One, at least for me, with basically sitting at home all day doing work and then playing video games for the rest of the day and watching movies and TV. That's literally all Ready Player One is about, right? So,
that's relatable. All you need is the drone Dominoes.
The what?
When they send the pizza via drone.
That's coming soon though, I'm sure. So
yeah,
that society is very relatable. I don't think there's really any dystopia that you would really like.
I don't know, the Total Recall one, right? Isn't that like it's kind of like the Feelies, except you just like go into a place and you can just like, it's like VR. It's like super immersive VR.
That's kind of like the Inception thing where you start to not know what real life is, which would kind of be kind of scary.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Did you see while you read this book? I mean, I thought there were so many parallels to today's society. Did you see anything that you thought was of note?
Yeah, I mean, I think this guy did a really good job with, I think I pointed out earlier, like consumerism, drugs to basically make you happy. Obviously, these are things that are probably happening in the 20s too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, things are quite cyclical, if you will. I thought the author himself is genius. I just think the story wasn't as captivating as I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I thought the story was going to be more. I just expected. I mean, I think we've also been conditioned for these
like the
dystopian
hero
stories.
jury.
Exactly. Exactly.
I agree with that.
And there was no real hero in this,
Right.
And so the idea of like, oh, this guy's going to kind of break down the entire structure and free the people.
1984, I thought was great. It ended with him losing, right? Like there was no hero in that either. But I thought that was a much better.
I said spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, but like that's another dystopia where like at the end he breaks and becomes part of the society, which is I thought was a good ending to the book. Like there's no just like he breaks everything. Yeah.
Well, I just thought it was so interesting, especially in the internet age that we're in, like how much of this society is us, in the sense of we all go to work, especially now during the pandemic when like everyone's just like on their computer. The idea of a cubicle monkey is pretty much my job, and a job that a lot of people have, where you don't really know exactly what you're doing, but you're doing it, and then how do you deal with that at the end of the day? You go to the feelies. For me, I watch movies, I read books, and I take my soma, which is either a couple of drinks, a puff of a joint, and then I use that to go to sleep. The only thing that's missing is the promiscuity.
Yeah. Well,
ladies, hit me up.
Yeah.
It did kind of stick me a little bit with like, what the hell am I doing? And for a book written in 1931 that has nothing to do with anything that I'm doing today, it's about assembly line people. And, it was fascinating to me that kind of struck home. But so the book in general, where are you calling BS? Because that's really what I'm interested in.
I guess from what angle are you taking the BS side of things? I guess is my
all right.
question.
Well, here's mine. Okay. I'll lead you with this.
Yeah.
My BS is that this society has been around. Well, for starters, a quick one. He references that the New York Times came out to see him. This is 650 years in the future. The New York Times is already on its last leg. There's 0% chance that the New York Times is around in 650 years. Just make up a fucking random newspaper or whatever. But my main BS is that for this society to exist and to continue to exist, the idea that you need people to maintain conditioned into what you've created them to be seems to be of the utmost importance. Yet they are often letting people go unconditioned.
Yeah.
And not do anything about it. The worst thing that happens is they send them to some island somewhere like Iceland or wherever, and they just forget about them. But they've already talked about how killing people, aka like putting them into the crematorium, creates phosphorus, which helps fuel the society. Why aren't you killing more people? Like more people should be dying.
Yeah.
Where is the Gestapo?
Especially since they don't think death is that big of a deal. So then therefore you could just easily kill off people. Yeah, I agree with that.
Exactly. The individual doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So when someone like Bernard starts having these weird ideas, don't ho and hum about it. Like the only person that gets informed is his direct boss. Like, no. You call the Gestapo and they come in and they kill this guy.
This is why in your society, that's what wouldn't happen.
Also, they just let John, who's a savage and has these radical ideas that could easily decondition mass amounts of people.
Yeah.
They just let him roam around society. What? Why is John even existing? Why is this reservation even existing? They should have anthraxed millions of people. Why wouldn't you just anthrax this whole reservation? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why are not more people being murdered?
You want more people murdered. Yeah, okay.
Yes,
more mass genocides.
I want it to be Mao Zedong. I want this to be the creation of communist China. I want fucking Pol Pot in Cambodia. I don't want that in real life, but I think for this society to function, I just don't get why they're not killing more people. It makes
when
no
they were
sense.
talking to him in chapter 16, he was often very cavalier about it. Hey guys, like what's going on? Oh yeah, this is what we do. Like this is how we do it. It's like, oh, okay.
And he even mentions, he's like, oh, we could kill you all, but like, why would we do that when we can just send you to an island? It's like, why wouldn't you?
I feel like the sequel to this would be an island revolt, but
Okay,
Yeah,
so that was my big BS.
Yeah, I think I had the same issue with the conditioning thing. Again, if once you learn about conditioning, you then become unconditioned, in my opinion. Like Sesame Street, right? That conditions kids. Even the guy, the narrator in the actual book had the Sesame Street voice when he was talking about the conditioning. So it really hit home with me with that. But once you learn those are just fucking puppets, that really kind of takes away the mystique, right?
Wait, hold on. You listened to the audiobook, right?
Yeah.
The BBC version?
Yeah.
Do you know who narrated that?
No.
Austin.
No.
It's Basil Expedition.
Are you serious?
Yeah, bro. It was
Wow.
Basil Expedition that narrated that book.
All right. We didn't talk about it, but during the orgy scene, he went to another. I had to turn the volume down because I was listening on on speaker mode. I was blushing. It was very aggressive.
It was Basil Expedition. That's my mother.
All right, I gotta re-listen almost now. I did not know
exactly.
that.
I found out early, and I was like dying to wait for you to text me and be like, "Hey, is this Basil Expedition?"
Wow, that's the biggest reveal. That almost changes the whole book for me. I did not know that.
No, it's her daughter, Vanessa.
All right, let's get into the. Would you recommend the book? Yes or no?
Yes, I would recommend the book.
Wow.
I thought it was very good. I don't read. I mean, I read. It was way better than Station 11. That's the bottom of my dystopian novel.
Hey, no need to take a shot off the side. Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely a classic. I think the parallels to today are super interesting. I don't think, like you said, the story is phenomenal, but I think the ideas are really interesting.
Okay. I think you know where I stand. I would not recommend. I think you have a greater appreciation for classics where I like classics, but I also then think like, oh, they could be made better, in which they think they have. A lot of the dystopian movies now steal from this, but I think they make it a better story than this one does. So you know from me on this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's also like time and place. Like I wonder what kind of dystopian novels were being created before this, because this is so out there, but to us it doesn't seem like it's that out there because
right. This is probably
watch this stuff all the time.
You brought this to a publisher today, they throw it out the window because like the first 3 chapters and how he writes it is so odd. There's no reason for it. Like usually there's some mechanism behind like weird writing. You kind of figure that out down the line, and this one is just like, I'm just throw this weird fucking writing in for the first 3 chapters, and you're like, okay.
You know what, I appreciate that stuff because I feel like so much that we read today is like movies today where it has to be, you don't wait 45 minutes to see Jaws in Jaws. It's like, I need to show the bad guy.
Oh yeah,
I need this. There's no alien anymore. So I mean, I'm not trying to be too old timey and talk from my rocking chair, but I just like the idea that something different.
Just that way. Okay, that's fair. I did have a pop quiz for you if you want to do that. I know we've gone a little longer.
Baby.
All right. Well, the first 3 chapters I had to stop multiple times and look up words. I made a list of the best 5 or that I didn't know. I'm very interested to see if you will know them.
I'm gonna fail, but go on.
I will butcher how I read these also. So the first one, viscosity.
Viscosity. It's like a thick fluid, right?
That is correct. Ding, ding, ding. 1 for 1. Sentitiously.
Pardon me?
Did I read that incorrectly? Sentitiously. Let me read this.
Like being thoughtful, like saying it from a thoughtful form of mind. Being like a sentient being.
Yes. Okay. Given to moralizing in a pompous or affected manner, which I think that you said.
Okay. Yeah, kind of, I guess.
Suffuse.
Suffuse?
Yeah.
Like I can use it, like suffuse it to say. So like it being obvious. I don't know.
Incorrect. Gradually spread through or over. Suffuse. I might have said it wrong, but her cheeks were suffused with color.
Okay. I could have used it. You give me use it in a sentence.
Pneumatic, which is used very often.
Yeah, pneumatic is used very often. I mean, it's a mechanical thing. So I would say it's just like, I don't know, like using it within a piston. I don't really know.
It is containing or operated by air, gas, or under pressure.
Oh, piston. There we go. Same idea.
Yeah, that's spot on. And my shout out to Tool, Pneuma, great song, but that has nothing to do with that word apparently, because that's the vital spirit or soul or creative force of a person. So I thought it was the same thing. I kept on reading it like that. Not close.
I think it is the same thing, but it's just with a person as opposed to.
All right, so one's philosophy. Okay, and then the last one, which is used a lot too, is viviparous.
Viviparous. It means like having a child like normally, like through a vaginal canal.
Wow. What'd you get on your SATs English? Jesus. Must be nice.
I don't know, 700.
Oh, wow. We got a smack guy here.
I'm just kidding.
You a smack guy?
Is that what it means? Yeah. Having vaginal children?
Bringing forth life through the development inside the body of the parent. So that was more of
there we go. Kids through a vagina.
Do we want to touch on anything else, Aaron, or do you want to touch on the next book?
Before we touch on the next book, I want to know your favorite sport.
I was having a tough time I only mentioned like 2 sports, right? There was like golf and then
obstacle golf and also like something macro energy golf or magnetic energy golf, something like that.
They didn't really describe them, right? They're kind of just like.
So my problem with obstacle golf is that what golf is? Like there's like that's obstacle golf. My favorites were the bathroom talcum blaster, which basically after you get out of the shower, it just like sprays you with talcum powder.
Oh.
I mean, we now know that talcum powder leads to cancer. So like, I wouldn't suggest doing that, but the idea is phenomenal. So don't put any more of that ball stuff on. Sex hormone chewing gum. Yeah.
Love that.
Are you kidding me?
Love that.
Like, it's like, what's the stuff that guys use to get their dicks hard?
What's it called?
Yeah,
Viagra.
So it's like Viagra chewing gum. Like, yes,
that's
please,
awesome.
Don't mind if I do. A vibro vacuum massage machine, which they say they knead and suck. So it's basically a mixture of like a massage wand and a Dyson vacuum. So it seems phenomenal, but it's a good thing they don't exist because it would pretty much make men obsolete. This guy pretty much talked about televisions before televisions existed. He talked about televisors, which are
did they not exist then?
No, they didn't exist in the
1930s. Okay, fair enough.
And then in terms of sports, we have escalator squash, centrifugal bumble puppy, which is funny because it's a kid's game, but it really sounds more like a dog game. It's basically like that thing that people have for their dog where you throw a ball into and it shoots the ball out, but kids play it.
Okay.
Seems like the worst game of it's like 300. It's like 360-degree game of 500. But it's too random. It seems more like a dog toy than a real game. We already talked about obstacle golf. Oh, women's heavyweight wrestling was a thing that people really like to watch. So for me, that's what I want to bet on in the society: women's heavyweight wrestling. I think we're gonna kind of reel it in a little bit for the next book and do something more topical to today and something that is probably more of a fun beach read, wouldn't you say?
For sure. Next book, The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. It's a murder mystery. I actually read her book after this one, which I thought was pretty good. Should be an easy read, should not have as much deep thought and philosophy in it, and be more of a, do you like this person? Do you not like them? Who do you think the murderer is type vibe, which is going to be more up my alley, I would say. So
I'm excited.
Cool. Yeah. Anything else? Wrap it up.
I'm glad we did this book. And, I think that it takes to the point of this podcast where we're trying to create here is just mix it up.
Random.
Do something different and explore different ideas and different themes and different genres. But no matter what we're doing, we're having a good time with it. So it's always good to talk to you, buddy. And I'm excited for our next one.
Agreed. And quick shout out, the TV show actually is pretty good. Watched the first episode, liked it. I think they did a really good take on, like, in today's society, what it would look like. So give that a look.
Check that out.
Yeah, and there's massive amounts of promiscuity, if you will. Giddy up.
Monkeys!
Got him, Sammy.
All right, good to talk to you. Take care, everybody. Love you.